to start, so by show of hands, who's doing an ABM campaign or planning an ABM campaign right now? And who has confidence that ABM campaign is well structured, orchestrated, and there's a clear definition internally? No other hands. And I think that's the case with ABM. The term has been thrown around a lot, and frankly, everybody's been doing ABM since marketing started. There's a list of accounts, typically going after them because they have a specific profile. So we wanted to actually break down a little bit about what we think ABM really is, and I think these two quotes from LeadMD and Serious Decisions really speak to that. So successful ABM is a marriage between account discovery and account marketing. So I'll read the quotes. From LeadMD about account discovery, we're focusing on not only the lead, but really the account as a whole. It's a much more laser-focused approach that eliminates a lot of waste. That's a lot of the, treating everything as every account as a market of one. And then from Serious Decisions about account marketing, marketers need to base plans on actual insights about actual accounts and the actual people in them. It's a dramatic change, and it's the hardest thing about ABM. That's about thinking the individual buying units within each account as additional markets, and how do you approach them differently with different messages. Now that's a nice way to wrap it all up, but just as Colin showed from the MarTech 5000, it's not very easy to implement, and there's a lot of voices that are out there telling you different things about it. So I took this from Chief MarTech. This is actually from April of 2016. It's probably why TechTarget's not up there. We weren't seen as a data business at that point. But I thought it did a really good job of actually aligning each of the key stages to building out an ABM plan and then orchestrating it. It's really, really complex. There's a lot of organizations telling you different things out there, and each one of those pieces is integral into executing a successful campaign. So I'm going to try to break down real quick 6 basic stages of building and implementing an ABM strategy, give you a couple takeaways, I hope. We're happy to have conversations after or anytime here after this to talk to you about your ABM strategy. And one thing I'd say, you've had a sales guy up here talking to you about data, you've got another sales guy up here talking to you about ABM. Well, we pride ourselves on really understanding the marketplace, the market dynamics, and how to execute those things. So we like to think of ourselves as not just sales guys, as part of the marketing teams as well, and that we do think that we can be consultative for you, so we're happy to do some of that. So step 1, define the accounts. Obviously, this is the most important part, and you obviously want to ask why you've got a list of accounts, but most importantly, why not? We see a lot of account lists come across and say, hey, we need to guarantee leads from this set of accounts. And my first question is, well, why these accounts? And it's typically, well, we got it from the sales leadership. These are the accounts that were assigned to people in Salesforce, and these are the ones that I am tasked with finding opportunities on. But there's no real clear definition often as to why those accounts. And then on the flip side, we look at things and we'll see people that will send lists over that maybe have 3 of the 4 big banks on it. We'll say, why not that other big bank? Oh, we didn't have them in the system. We haven't talked to them in 2 years. Well, wouldn't you want to include them because they look like that? So making sure you're understanding that is really important. And then you have to think about considering the propensity to spend and fit versus profile and aspiration. If you're truly a mid-market company and you're looking to upsell into a lot of enterprises, it's fine to have that enterprise list, but you have to have real expectations of what the outcome is going to be. Vice versa, if you're an enterprise company looking to go downsize into mid-market and SMB, you can have that list, but it's important to have a clear expectation about the results. You're not the incumbent in there, and you may not have the most success, so clearly defining that in the expectations is important. And then the size of your list should really be in sync with your activation plans. Belinda will talk about this a little bit through the ITSMA model. Are you looking to just do one-to-one marketing? It's fine to have a list of maybe 10 accounts. But if you're looking to do a 6-month campaign and using programmatic and email marketing and telemarketing, you're going to want to build that account list wider so that you can actually show tangible results. Belinda will touch on that a little bit. So I wanted to show you a little bit about how we can help do some diagnostics on your accounts and the why and why not. And this is a real recent case in ANZ. We got a list of 148 SMB accounts from a customer. And what we did is we mapped that to what we saw as active accounts doing research on TechTarget sites. What we saw, there was overlap of 31 accounts. So 31 of the 148 were actually active on our site. And that's great because we know there's interest against a core topic within their core accounts. We can absolutely go after that. We also see there's 450 total accounts that meet that general SMB model on our sites that are actually doing research. So what this helped us do and have some of the conversations is ask why, those 148 accounts, the ones that aren't active, why are they on there? How do they end up on that list? And then more importantly, why not these? They typically fit the profile. There's a lot of lookalikes in there. We see they're active against the topics that you can sell against, so why not these? And sometimes there's really good answers to those questions, but it's really important to ask that so you make sure you get the right account list to go after. And then once you get the accounts, you want to identify the contacts. And this can often get confused with the fifth step, which is going after and engaging these accounts. What you're doing here is you're creating targets, not bullseyes. And I think Sulo pointed out a bunch of the different things you can use for targeting criteria. Where folks, I think, go wrong in this is they try to get too granular. We've had people come to us and say, I just want to do a campaign to these accounts and chief data officers. I actually searched that this morning in LinkedIn. If anybody's interested, there's about 900 people in Australia in total that have the title Chief Data Officer or CDO. Don't limit yourself on that. Make sure you're thinking about personas and buying teams and not getting down into the weeds on specific titles and things like that. And then also think about the end goal. Where are these contacts going to go, and what are the expectations that you have? Are you looking for entry points, or are you looking for engagements? And the difference is if you're looking to pass these off to an SDR, you're looking for entry points. You're looking for doors to knock on, people they can go and engage, people they can go and talk to and see if they can get into that account. If you're looking for engagements and your metrics are open rates, leads, people to attend in events, you want to look at things with a little bit more data behind it, maybe get a little tighter on some of those titles, and make sure that you know that these people are more likely to engage with you. And similar to when we looked at the accounts, we can actually help you look at the contacts within that as well. So that same list of 148 accounts, we went one step further to look at who are the contacts that we see within Priority Engine that are doing research within the last 90 days against the topics that you care about. So across that list, I think there was 31 accounts that were active. We saw 78 contacts that were active and engaged from that ABM list. On the flip side, we also know there's 243 other contacts in our database, as well as those that we can supplement from Discover.org, that don't show meaningful activity against that. So this is where you start to think of, do I want entry points? Then take those 243, give them to your SDRs. They can call through. There's no actual evidence that they're involved in a buy, that they're interested in the topic, but this can actually get you into the account. If you care about engagements and open rates and things, only focus on that 78 and then see how you can expand out of there. So doing a little bit of analysis on the list and the contacts, thinking about where they're going to go and what your end goals are, this is really going to help you structure the campaign. And then from there, you want to build insights. I won't spend much time on this, but it's basically thinking about common themes or traits amongst the accounts and amongst the buying teams that you have there. Don't overthink it though. The commonality is the lowest hanging fruit on this. Do they all work in financial services? Are they part of the line of business team? Or are they part of the tech team? Things as simple as that can really help you get started in crafting your message, which is the next step. So from a messaging standpoint, this is where I think a lot of people actually overthink it even further. So other than one-to-one ABM efforts, if you know that you're going after Pepsi as a company or your ANZ Bank as a company, this is about grouping content messaging against those common themes and demographics. So don't overthink it. One of the biggest areas that we see that is with case studies. Great way to go after accounts. But a lot of marketers think they need to spend a lot of money to localize case studies, take time with local clients, and yes, that's valuable, but I'd argue that verticalizing that is more important. Because you can put a little front-end marketing on it. If you're going after banks, financial services, and you're a global organization that has a case study from North America or EMEA, promote that out as financial services organization gets X ROI from this investment in software over time. That's going to get a lot of open rates, and just like Greg said, we don't know if they actually read it, but engaging with that title will tell you that they're interested in that and give you an entry point into that account. And then driving interactions, the next one, make sure you activate that. So identify which way you're going to get in front of these accounts. Is it through display, email, and phone? And then for each one of those methodologies, you really need to think through, what does success look like? And be wary of traditional marketing KPIs. Typically, these things are coming from sales and asking for, I want leads and I want pipeline. When in reality, you've got a small set of accounts. You don't know if they're all interested, and you're really trying to spend time getting deeper and wider with them. So think about contacts versus leads. Think about engagements versus pipeline. Because contacts and engagement eventually gets you to leads and pipeline. So be careful about looking at general marketing KPIs in front, and make sure that you're setting these expectations with your team, but also with the sales teams and whoever's passing that ABM list down to you. The most successful folks that we see really focus on inroads, just getting general contacts and engagements to a critical mass where sales reps can follow up on that. And then insights over time, paying attention to, just as Greg showed, how do these accounts engage with different topics and different medium over time to help you determine where they might be in the buy cycle and when it actually makes sense to hand them to inside sales or outside sales. Which gets you to the last bit, that sales handoff, and I'd argue this is one of the most challenging things and probably frustrating things, because this is where marketing loses control. So it's a big challenge because with the MarTech that you guys have, it doesn't really align with ABM. Traditionally, things are attached to a lead. So I love what Greg said earlier, that I think the mode for how many people are attached to an opportunity is 1 across that. And the buying teams are much, much larger than that. So using simple things like the objects, the opportunity objects in Salesforce, you can tie accounts to opportunities, and then all the leads will roll under that, is a simple way to do some of those things. But you've got to set clear expectations with sales management, I think, first, and then get down to sales. And Belinda will talk a little bit about, I think, her initial engagements with her sales team on that. But make sure that they understand how your scoring works and what it means. What does it mean when somebody's got a score of 70 and they've looked at 2 web pages, they've attended an events, and they've looked at a white paper, versus somebody who maybe just came in and looked at a case study? What should be the approach and the expectation of how they're going to engage? And collectively define the information that should go to sales, and more importantly, how they're going to use it. And hold sales management accountable for doing that. You guys just put in all this work through steps 1 through 5 to plan this, to orchestrate it, to get it into market. Make sure you hold sales accountable for how they're actually going to use this data that you're investing in. You're inevitably responsible for showing ROI on, while their guys go out and actually try to execute on that. So some of you may actually oversee the SDR team. I know a couple marketers in here do that, but those that don't, I'd encourage you to go and sit down and understand how they're using the data, how the data from the ABM campaign is being used different from maybe standard follow-up for somebody that just downloaded something on your site or requested a walkthrough. And then more importantly, what does that cadence look like for outreach? There's some really cool tools if you guys oversee the SDR team, or if you want to make recommendations. We personally use SalesLoft to help with these cadences. So when we do certain things, we put a bunch of names, and a lot of you in here probably are on the receiving end of some of that from Genevieve over there. But we take the names and we put them into these cadences, and she's got a bunch of templatized emails that she goes in on a one-to-one basis and will update based off of the account, based off of the individual, based off of the history that we know. But that really helps her be structured, and that helps Amadeus, the sales manager, understand exactly what she's doing, when she's doing it. And from a marketing perspective, Dave and these guys can help to make recommendations on what does that content follow-up look like. Because you guys did the work to get them into the system. You likely know what it worked to get them out as a closed-won opportunity. So a lot of work goes into that, but if you really break it down and use it, this is a quote from Nikki Tucker, who's worked with us from Rapid7. And the reason that I chose this is I think when you're looking at ABM as Rapid7 and Nikki did, the key points in here is we're not showing you a quote where she says, we closed 4 $6 million deals, or we got 900 to 1 ROI. She's pumped about 22% open rates against accounts that they care about. She's pumped that they've got hyper-targeted response and their sales guys are having conversations against that. Those are realistic expectations when you're talking about ABM, which is a tighter subset of your general marketing. And those are some of the expectations that you should be pushing back to sales and say, hey, this is good. We've done a really good job here, but we need to continue to do that. And then I showed you earlier a little bit about what that landscape looks like for ABM and tech. And while TechTarget wasn't there before, I'd argue that we're in each one of these areas now. So we talked a lot about tactics or strategies. from a tactic perspective, we think we can help you in each one of these stages, and you're going to need a lot of other providers, and as Sulo showed, different second and third party data across those. But from identifying the right accounts to figuring out who those contacts are on those accounts, figuring out what insights and triggers you can use to engage them meaningfully, making content recommendations and even using our content, getting your messages in front of this through email and through web, and then helping to orchestrate this by creating different lists that you can put into nurture streams, and then ideally, as we roll this out next year, being able to tie this into some pipeline and things. So if you're interested in any of these areas, we can obviously talk to you after the fact. But I'll move on and introduce Belinda Hilberts over here, who will talk to you a little bit about her philosophy on ABM and how Veeam is executing against that. Thanks.
So for those of you that aren't familiar with Veeam, we are a backup and data management solution provider. I'll spare you the long-winded version. We're a hyper-growth company, so we've had 40 quarters of double-digit growth. And as that company grows, it's come from us shifting from being an SMB provider all the way up to enterprise and multi-solutions now. So from a marketing perspective, traditionally, given that we were born in the SMB, we were all digital. And originally we were even measured just on net new leads. So fast forward a lot of years, and we've obviously matured our go-to-market. And this year we've been obviously a lot more focused on pipeline revenue, and this quarter we're just starting our pilot for ABM. In my past life, I've worked with a totally different organisation where we've been able to implement a full ABM strategy. It was a very targeted enterprise organisation, so we were able to map all of the prospects and customers into the ABM process I'll show you shortly. I'm not an ABM expert, but I do hope from these sessions, as I'm sure you guys do, that we share what we've learned, we share some of our mistakes, and we try and learn from each other. So, I'm going to throw Greg under the bus a little bit first, because it's too much tech target love. You saw on one of... There's never too much tech target love. Look, you saw, for some of you guys at the start of today, Greg asked how many people hadn't started their ABM strategy. And I think sometimes, I know when I first started looking at ABM, it feels like this really big, arduous task. And you take this really long time to prepare it, and it feels like you're climbing up this mountain. It's going to take you so long to get there. It's going to be great at the end. And I just encourage anyone that's sort of feeling a little bit like that to shift your mindset before you start looking at your strategy. Think about a kid at a skate park. Also not a skating expert. Kids go down, they pick a small trick, they give it a try, they fall, they fail, they get back up, they go, what did I do wrong? And then they start again. And they keep going and they keep going until they get it right. And then once they get that right, they go try something bigger until they got into the biggest trick. So I just really encourage you, if you haven't started, get started. Pick a small pilot. Our pilot's only a couple of accounts. This time of year isn't great to be doing any big projects. Pick a small account, do your pilot, get started. Don't shoot for the mountain, just shoot for the little ramp in the park. So I just wanted to, Greg and John asked me to just share with you our approach to ABM, both in my past and today. I'm a big believer in not reinventing the wheel. If you haven't read Bev Burgess's book, ITSMA, or read anything from ITSMA, please do so. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with their model. For those of you not, and just do a quick recap for everybody, we essentially just prioritize the accounts from ABM Light and Programmatic, or as I prefer, one-to-one, one-to-few, one-to-many. Really, it's just down to a prioritization exercise with sales, and we'll talk a little bit about criteria later. And then from a content, we target them based on very highly customizable content down to more generic content. What I've done in the past with an organization that was very split in their sales teams, where they had an account management team versus a sales team, was just put this little bit of extra customization, which is mapped for me for each of these three tiers, the existing accounts and the prospects. Now, we were going to put this same process in place at Veeam, but at the same time, we're in 2019 planning now, and the sales management have started looking at how they're going to start prioritizing their accounts. As I mentioned, we've gone from being kind of a spray and pray type of approach to having to be more strategic, not just from marketing but from sales. So they've implemented this model. And it's a RAD model. And I'm not sure, is anyone familiar with this sort of model? Does anyone have this? No. So basically, just to orient you from left to right along the bottom axis here, they're mapping out their organisations and the potential revenue from the smallest to highest, small being 1, large being 3. And then from bottom to top, how much of a percentage share do we have of their business? Acquire, we've got pretty much nothing. Develop, we've got a portion of their business, and retention, we really want to make them into more advocates. So I share this with you not so that you go back to your organisations and tell sales they should implement RAD models, but we were looking at putting our ABM strategy into place, and it felt, when I spoke to sales, it feels just like another thing for them to have to think about, right? Another way for us to go to market. So what we've done instead is we've just directly overlaid or aligned our marketing ABM approach to the sales RAD model. So what you can see here is firstly, enterprise, commercial and SMBs, how we go to market at Bing. Our sales teams are very separate, the revenue targets are very separate, the way they go to market is different. So what we've done here is mapped the expectations, and if you remember from back here, they're mapped, the accounts have A1, 2 or 3, R1, 2 or 3, etc. We've just mapped those different categories into the ABM model. So why have we done this? I'm sure those of you that have implemented ABM, as soon as you start, the sales get super excited, like little kids in a playground, and everybody wants one-to-one. Everybody's account is the most important account in the entire world, and they need complete customization, and they need to be on this program. So this is about expectation setting. I'd highly encourage, and lessons from the past, just to be very clear on that. When we look at the account, how many accounts you can put into each of those 3 tiers, be very clear and hold your ground with sales. If you say with my team, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't get an extra 10 resources to run ABM, it's got to be brought into your current go-to-market. So if you say we've got a resource to do 20 in 1 to few, give them a little bit, maybe 22, 23 maybe. But don't let them put 50 in there. It throws you right out of whack. So yeah, we've just aligned the 3 categories and the market segments and just set those expectations. That also means when we're talking to sales management, it's just aligned to what they're talking about as well. So my takeaway or my encouragement for everybody in the room is to have a think, especially now as where I'm sure all of you guys are in 2019 planning, have a think about sales and how sales are talking about their segmentation. How are they prioritizing their accounts and what are their sales methodology, and how can you make this really relevant to what they're already doing? So I just wanted to close off with just 5 tips, 5 lessons that I've learned that I'm hoping can be of value to you. The first is to educate and engage early. Interesting test. Go and stand in front of a lot of salespeople and ask them what ABM stands for. Just the word, the acronym. Maybe half of them will know. If you ask them what does that mean, what does it actually mean, they don't know. Right? So before you start saying, here's my program, I've got this developed, this is what we're going to do next year, we've got it all baked, I'd recommend just do 10 minutes. Remember the attention span of goldfish? No more than 10. That was at sales, but probably us too. But no more than 10 minutes ABM 101. I'm doing another one of these 101s tomorrow in our management meeting. So if anyone wants some slides, I'm more happy to share them. Just connect to on LinkedIn. So start with the really basics, and remember, especially with sales, what's in it for me? We're not doing this because we can now segment because we've got access to data. We're going to personalize content. We're going to do different tactics. Instead, think about talking to them about, we're going to help you progress your deals. We're going to be partner better with sales so that they can acquire customers faster. We're going to stop bombarding you with all the leads you don't care about because we're going to be 100% focused on what you do care about. So just I encourage you to think about just thinking about how you pitch it before you walk in towards sales. And get in there early. We just spoke about aligning with sales methodology and structure. We've heard a lot about data or however you want to say it today. I also split between the two. It's terrible, isn't it? I think it's just really important that us as marketers lead the discussion. And what I mean by that is, don't walk into the discussion around ABM with sales or with anything to do with data and say, what do you think? Always go in with an opinion. Always have a recommendation on the model. So here's how I'm thinking we might segment the 3 tiers for ABM. Here's what that might look like for your team. What do you think? Rather than we have these 3 tiers, how do you want to, can you go and put all the accounts into those lists and come back to me? So really going with an opinion and lead that discussion. As I mentioned, be the kid on the skateboard. Just give it a try. Worst case, you fail. Fail fast and communicate transparency. Avoid. Strong believer in this. As long as you don't take for a really long time and try and create. I know I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I'm sure a lot of us like to put a program together, plan it all out, wrap it up in a bow, get it all ready, and then we go here. How good is this? Bring them along, so get them involved early. And you know what, if you fail early and you're only halfway along, it's fine. Just learn and then just keep going, keep iterating, keep making changes. But start now. Pick one account to do an ABM one-on-one now for next year. Now start small if you need to. And I think I've touched on this a bit, but just keep evaluating. Just use the data that you have access. Pick no more than 5 key metrics. We can have 50 metrics if we want. Pick 3 to 5 that you have to look at regularly, and that you report on with sales regularly, and just keep evaluating.
So one of the things you talked about and I touched on was the alignment with sales. So you're going in to educate the sales reps, but can you talk about how you're working through alignment with sales leadership, the executives that are over there, what the expectations are, and how the discussions went on, hey, we're going to embark on this ABM strategy, this is what we're thinking.
Yeah, of course. We actually, I made a big mistake this time in starting with sales management. And actually, we had to start with the MD. We had started going down this process of briefing in the pilot and working with sales management. And then my MD said to me, who I've got a fantastic relationship with, goes, what's this ABM business? It's my team's job. I pay those salespeople too much for you to be helping them. Go let them do their job. So I think the first and foremost is educate and engage the top of your business, or however high that goes that's relevant. Obviously, don't go too high and be a pain. Then we just really mapped out, you guys familiar with racing models? Google racing models, yeah. So really did the clear mapping on from the plan development through to the content development, through to execution and reporting, who was responsible, accountable, who do we have to consult, and who do we have to inform. And then we took that big, annoying spreadsheet and then put it into some very simple salespeople capable slides just to tell them what they're responsible for. Yeah.
And now you're just embarking on your first, Veeam's locally, first ABM campaign, and you've run a few in your previous organizations. So with the, start now, fail fast, and learn, what are some of the expectations that you're setting internally about how this is going to go and what you're deeming as success?
So we have a few, I think someone mentioned earlier today, there's about 50 data points that you're measuring on. We have the long dashboard, but the key for us is we're looking at contact acquisition. As our business diversifies, we need to be looking at expanding the contacts that we have within the account, so that's really important for us. Activity within the accounts. So it's all very well and good to have people, but are they engaging with Veeam? Opportunities, and that depends on the tier and the business. So we split that, whether it's acquiring new opportunities or flipping leads. But we also have a metric for us around deal progression. We're really heavy Salesforce users, so we can track just from stages within Salesforce whether we've helped push that along the sales cycle. And then obviously a win at the end of the day. If we don't make money, we get fired. Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. And then in terms of identifying the accounts and the contacts and things, what sort of data are you using to build out your plan, and then what sort of data will you look at as it progresses?
A lot. We are, as I mentioned, we are a big Salesforce shop, and we have an unlimited number. I couldn't actually tell you of people in Russia that do fantastic Salesforce reporting for us. So they've been really good at helping us with initially setting up the data sources, aligning with the RAD model and sales enablement. So the data with data.com plugins there. The engagement measures, tick target priority engine. No, genuinely, we have been using Discover.org and tick target priority engine. Courtney, my team here, has done a fantastic job of rolling that out to the sales teams. And that's also going to be a great help when we start looking at content. So I'd also encourage you to look through, especially that one-to-one and some of the one-to-few, what the buyers are engaging with through Priority Engine. Execution, we've got like all the usual suspects: Marketo, demand base, Google DoubleClick, all of those sort of usual suspects. And reporting, we're still sitting in Salesforce for a lot of our reporting. Although we are trialing Terminus. I'm not sure if anyone's been using Terminus or not, but that's about to get rolled out, which I believe is an ABM platform that can do a lot of the reporting for you.
Well, so you mentioned Terminus. Do you find that a lot of, so that's a third-party overlay tool that helps you visualize and analyze and things like that. Is that a local thing that you're sourcing, or do you find a lot of these things come from North America or EMEA, where a lot of your stuff is? Is that being pushed out, or is that something you're able to do locally?
Yeah, Terminus in specific is coming from global. TechTarget, actually, we started working with you guys locally. We're lucky we do have flexibility in what we use, but I think with MarTech, with all the integration with all the other different pieces, it's often easier, or often, in my experience, it often comes down from corporate. It's just how you then use it, so and how you manage that tool in your team.
I think you've answered all my questions, so we're a little over time anyway, so we'll make sure we get everybody out for your break. So thanks, Belinda.
Thank you.